So the question here for part 2 was a time you helped someone. And this is an event that happened in the past. Today I'm going to look here at the grammar. So I'll be looking at 1, simple and complex structures, 2, flexibility of use, and 3, any mistakes and how that may affect understanding. I'll also mention briefly some pronunciation as well. So to begin, when we look at an event, it's very likely then an event that you're going to be looking at 3 things, that you'll be looking probably at the where, so you'll be describing the place or the setting most likely. You'll be looking at probably the who, so you'll be describing people potentially, and the what, where you're probably looking at the past tenses that you're going to be using. Now just a reminder on the past tenses, because you've got the simple past, or let's put it this way, I walked is the simple past, I was walking, the past continuous, and I had walked, the past perfect. I had walked is describing something that happened here before a past point in time. So I had walked before I came here. So there's a lot of opportunity for tenses and for different structures, as we will see in a moment. So let's have a look here at what we've got. So talking about the time I helped someone, I'd like to share with you the time I helped a neighbour. Okay, she was an elderly lady, she was at the bottom, she was struggling, she was literally, so all of this is describing the person and the setting, and it's all the simple past. She was struggling, sorry, the past continuous, she was taking, that's what's happening, she was going, it's all the past continuous, and then I wanted to help her, I offered. So you have this classic past continuous, something was happening and then something happened. So it's the past continuous followed by the past simple. Just the past simple. It's a very classic and a very normal way to describe a place and a setting and then what happened. And then there's a nice structure that we have here of as we did A, then we did B. As we walked, we started to chat. It's a nice structure. As we did this, then we did that. In the next bit here, this is difficult to break down into sentences, but we can actually break it down into clauses and see how the clauses tie together. So let's try and do that. Try and make this as clear as possible. So let's say we learned quite a bit about each other. That's one clause. It's a bit of extra information. She was very nice, and in reality. And then that, which refers to learn quite a bit about each other, that helped me connect more with her. So another clause. It's also got extra information, her and the neighbours in our building. So that is the person, if you like, but extended. Because I was a bit of a newbie on the block, or I was a bit new. So in effect, what we've got here really are 3 clauses. We learned a bit about each other. That helped me connect with her because I was new. So there's 3 clauses connected with very, very simple connectors, and in reality, because. But it's quite effective. The clauses are embellished, there's added bits, but essentially the structure is there. 3 different clauses. We learned about each other. That helped me connect because I was new. It's good. It's great language. It shows you're able to build clauses on top of each other. We've now here at the bottom got some flexibility because we're now moving to a point before this point in the past. So before this story, when I helped her, I had moved into the area. I had just moved into the area, which is the past perfect. So lots of tenses, some nice setting of the scene, and some nice building of clauses so far. And now moving on, the candidate actually he makes a more general point. Having talked about the event, he now says, well, I think it's important that we help people. So he's showing that flexibility of giving the detail of the event and coming to a more general one. It does help us to connect. Nice use, it's the present simple, but the use of do or does to show emphasis is really good. It does help us to connect. And then he shows flexibility by going back to the event, referring to the event. In that particular case, it was really helpful for me to connect. So it shows flexibility, and then he comes back to the general. In today's busy world, with all the hustle and bustle, it's good to stop, to see what's going on, to take time to connect. So there's a lot of flexibility coming back to the present tense. What you have here as well is something that pops up in speeches, presentations, and I'm not sure if it was conscious with the candidate, but this rule of 3 is really good. It's very powerful when you're speaking to talk in 3s. You know, often we say, I like fish, potatoes and carrots. There's just a rhythm and a feel of 1, 2, 3. Here, it's good to stop, to see what's going on, to take time to connect. It has a natural flow, kind of having 3 things together. So it's interesting, it's worth being aware of, I guess. And then more flexibility in structures. He gives a very simple conditional. If we can help them, they will help us. If we do A, this will happen. It's a very simple first conditional, but it's nice here and shows flexibility. And just to finish off then, he has this expression without sounding I think. It's quite a complex or unusual expression, but quite an interesting one just to be aware of. Basically, the construction is without sounding I think There are variations, but basically, for example, without sounding like a teacher, I think you should. And it means I know I sound like a teacher, but I'm going to say it anyway. Another example, without sounding silly, I think you should do. That means I know I sound silly, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And he says here, without sounding like an advert, I know I sound like an advert, but I think it's really good to help people and connect with others. So it's an interesting little expression. And that sums it up. That's the end of this section. Do realise I said I would talk a bit about pronunciation. So just a couple of things. It was really the pronunciation of the past tense. The example here helped. So verbs that end in a P, like help or hope, or maybe to ship, then the past participle ends in a T sound. I helped And of course it connects to I helped her, I helped her, I helped her neighbour. Likewise, walk, so verbs ending in K, walked, also have that T sound. So verbs like walk or work, walked, worked, we walked up. And of course there's a connection again, we walked up, we walked up. Started, so other consonants would be the id sound. We started to chat. And finally, just to mention the pronunciation of she was, because the was is not stressed, the next word is stressed, elderly, then it becomes she was, she was. She was an elderly lady. She was struggling. The stress on the struggling. She was struggling. Going. She was going. She was going. She was an elderly lady. She was struggling. She was going very, very slow. Okay, that's it. A few things on pronunciation. That's the lot.